Trinity Sports Medicine and Dr. Michael Scarpone are now offering 2 new preventative programs for both head injury and ACL injury. For our head injury program, get a baseline evaluation of cognitive functioning, allowing quick and accurate diagnosis with our nationally recognized IMPACT training system. Our ACL reduction and strengthening programs are geared to help educate and reduce likelihood of an ACL injury. Call 740-266-3866 for your concussion screening or an individualized ACL prevention program with Dr. Scarpone and staff.
Star Sportscast brought to you by Damon's Grill and Sports Bar. We're here with the twins, Brett Zableski and Fred Younts. Yes, twins, I know.
Finally coiffed over there.
I know, he looks good, man. That's sweet stuff. We're going to talk about more high school sports. We will start with Big Red after its 2 home games. They have 2 away games. They're taking on East Liverpool. I know it's going to be a lot to a little. I understand that, but let me give props to Ricky Prescott. Sorry,
he was ready to use it.
I know. Let me give props to Ricky Prescott. Even though Liverpool's 0-5, he's actually laying down the law, teaching the kids discipline, and some people may not like it, but yeah, too bad. What's the best interest of the program is in the best interest of the program. Big Red's going to go to 6-0, but props to Ricky for doing what he thinks is right, and what he thinks is right is instill discipline in that football program. Yes. And obviously, regardless of what your record is, discipline's huge. Discipline's huge.
Well, in this case, I'll give East Liverpool all the credit because we've seen turnarounds like that with Toronto last year, for example, and they're a little closer to the area. And that's the way to really get your program on track, get the young kids playing, get the quote-unquote cancers, I guess, as it were, out of the program. Maybe that's not the proper word. But for Big Red, this is an opportunity really to show their depth, show some of the players that don't get as much as the playing time, that they really get the quality repetitions for later in the season when people were starting to get banged up. So this will be a really good game in that regard.
Yeah, like you said, this is going to be definitely a big game for Big Red as far as getting the younger kids some playing time, have some kids see some reps against some meaningful time in the game. To be honest with you, when it comes down to it, it's not going to be a good game. But I do like what East Liverpool's doing.
Absolutely.
I do like what Prescott's doing. In the long run, if they give him time, this program could definitely take a turn if they follow the example he's laying down right now.
All right, now we're going to Caddis, where Edison is ranked number 9 in the region, and after a big win last week against Buckeye, which you saw, and then they're playing Kropka's Harrison Central, and this is going to be an interesting game, really, really interesting game, because usually it's ground and pound for both teams, but obviously Harrison found a new quarterback, they're doing things differently. You saw Edison last week. What's going up?
Well, Edison impressed me the most with their run defense. They still gave up about 180 yards rushing, but they contained Justin Deere and the rest of the cast. It was definitely a big step up for them. This is going to be probably the game of the week. You got 2 very balanced teams. 2 teams that can run the ball, 2 teams that can throw the ball, 2 teams that can hit the big play and grind it out on you. It's going to be fun to watch. Obviously, Kyle Minger has become a true weapon for Edison.
He just bailed you out.
He did bail me out.
Yeah, Kyle Minger he's the receiver from Edison. But yeah, 2 big interceptions last week. He's a definite threat to score anytime he's on the field on offense. And Shane O'Brien has really stepped up the last 2 weeks. It took him a while to get going. Then he hits a 42-yard touchdown run last week to basically that ended up being the game-winning score. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, Kyle Minger, 36.5 yards per catch. I mean, and that's down from the week before.
Yeah, exactly.
So it tells you what type of explosive offense that Edison can trot out there each week. But talking to Coach Kropka last night, they're not necessarily worried about it. He's more worried about what they can do on their own, and what they can do is run the football with Mr. Hython. And what have we been saying about Edison all year? It's a 3-man front. You get those bubbles to run in with those big running backs, and you're going to get yards. It's just the way it works, especially if you commit to it. The difference this week, unlike last week, is Buckeye Local can't really pass the ball as well as Harrison showed in the last couple of weeks with David Miser, the quarterback. See, I got him. See, me, Miser, Minger, I'm good to go.
All right, another huge Buckeye game is a Buckeye Local coming off a 22-21 loss to Edison, heads to Martins Ferry. And Ferry picked up a 21-20. That's a point. I apologize. My bad. It's not the last mistake I'll make today.
That point ruined my week.
Yeah, sorry. Wham! So Buckeye Local goes to Ferry. Buckeye Local matches up very well with Ferry. Every year they match up very well with Ferry. This used to be the opener the last 3 or 4 years. Used to be the opener, and man, this is going to be a really good football game down at Ferry on the turf. I kind of like Buckeye Local for some strange reason. What do you think? They're Buckeye Local alum?
Well, it's the Route 7 rivalry. Does anyone still call it that?
I don't
Or was
know.
that made up for?
That's back in the day when you played.
Oh man, that's a while ago.
I know.
But we know what's going to happen. Both teams. Martins Ferry's going to run the counter, and Buckeye Local is going to run Justin Deere. Who's bigger and tougher in the trenches? That's your difference right there. I give the edge to Ferry only because it's in Martins Ferry, and that's the only thing I can see that separates these teams right now.
Obviously, coming into this game, the big thing for me and Buckeye Local is where their head's at. That was a devastating loss for them last week, and I don't mean it like it's a season crusher, but when you lose the way you lost 21-20 against a conference rival, it gets in your head, and how do you bounce back the next week is going to tell you where your season goes, because they got a tough road ahead of them down the stretch. So we're going to see where their head's at after that loss last week.
That's going to be a fun game to watch. Game to watch. And now we have a Hancock County rivalry game, and obviously Oakland's a little bit better than we're high, but it's still a rivalry game. It's the last game between the two schools at War Memorial Field, because each school is getting new on-campus facilities next year. Now, let's face it, we're struggled, but J.C. Kexio's had 2 weeks to prepare for his rival. You take 2 weeks to prepare for your rival, you're going to show something, but still Oakland probably have a little bit more than we're high.
Yeah, both of these teams power running games. Oakland is just better at what both teams do well. I think that's what it comes down to, is they're going to match strength on strength, and Oakland just has more horses in their barn right now. So,
is it possible to start talking about the stadiums now?
Yeah, we can,
Worry
because
about it later.
those stadiums are going to be really nice.
They are.
They're
For
gonna be
us, we'll take advantage of it fully.
Yeah.
But in the case,
all you care about is the press box food. Let's face it.
That's why you get into journalism. It's
Yeah,
for the
that's
food.
why I
That's why
took
you're
this
for a
job. What are
media.
you talking about?
We're at Damon's.
Yeah,
I
we're
mean,
so
come on.
yeah. 3 tons of fun.
And Oakland should win the game.
Okay. Still the best. All right, we're going to have a little break in the action. We're going to bring in Pam from Damon's. She's going to discuss what's coming up this weekend. See if all you Steeler fans working really hard to win a couple games. Hey, look, you were in angst on Sunday because your Browns snuck one out that they really shouldn't. Pam, I don't want to forget that. Pam, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. What's going on?
Hey, this weekend, join us for football here at Damon's. We also have extended our happy hour prices, and it's from 4 to 8 now instead of 5 to 8. So that's also in our clubhouse as well as our bar area. And half-price appetizers, half-price draft beers. And then Tuesday night, every Tuesday, wing night. So
I like happy hours.
Happy hours.
I'm fine with that.
I'm all right.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you, Pam.
Appreciate it.
Hey, by the way, my Giants won 2 in a row.
Yeah.
Back at the top.
Yeah, wait till their next defender blows out a knee again.
Hey,
So,
as long as we
what
win
time
with
is it?
that
We got
last
5
year,
minutes.
I'm
No
all
more
right.
happen.
All right, we got 5 more games to get to. Let's stay in the bucket. We got Creek at UL.
I want to keep talking about the Giants and the Steelers.
No, we don't care. What are my Chargers? Oh, yeah, they're leading the division. Never mind. Okay, we have Indian Creek at UL. Indian Creek is 15th in the region. They came off a big win last week. Obviously, you watched UL struggle a little bit against Edison. We just think Creek's going to take, make sure. They have, at some point, they have to take care of business. This is one of the taking care of business games.
Just not a good matchup for Union.
No, not at all.
It really isn't. And their quarterback is tough, but he's expected to not only be their quarterback, but their only running back. They don't put a back in the backfield, and they tell him to run up the middle. Not a good idea.
Not a good idea. Yeah.
Well, hopefully we're seeing the origination point of Indian Creek going to the playoffs or making a run towards the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree.
And what's nice about a game against Union Local and a week before Bel Air and then playing at St. Clairsville is you're seeing these spread offenses week after week after week, and you're getting prepared against them for a lot of other teams that run them across the state if you do make it to that point. So from a schematic point, they're going to be a better football team even though Union Local isn't playing that well.
Let's head to Toronto, Clark Hinkle Stadium, where the Red Knights, 11th in the region. Big one last week down at Valley. I don't care. You're still on the road going to Valley. That's not the easiest drive in the world. They took care of business 22-8, and they're let's face it, they're struggling in Bel Air St. John, so this should be over nice, short, and sweet.
60 carries, minimum 300 yards as a team. Maybe 40 points.
They may not throw the ball.
Well, I'd like to see a little more variety in the run game with Toronto, at least a little bit. We've seen a whole lot of Aaron Thomas in the last couple of weeks. Let's see if McGee can get back into the offense a little bit. Let's see what Ralph King does a little bit more. So let's see how they vary it up and see if they show something different, or Coach Meek plays it close to the vest just to get a solid win.
At the same time, with Thompson getting his back-to-back 100-yard weeks, Ralph King ran for 100 yards this week. Mosty had another 98. I mean, they're starting to show that they have more than just one horse.
And let's face it, how many times do you see a big number 76 running at you?
That's a Clydesdale coming
Yeah,
to us. That's not a horse.
260 pounds.
Yeah.
He's on a roll now.
Yeah,
So,
and he's just not there to lead the way for
He's on a
somebody.
roll.
They're giving the big man the ball.
no
You know
doubt.
what I mean?
Exactly.
So once you see them tackle them,
Yeah,
they do. They're just falling and laying on
yeah,
the ground.
exactly. We're going to Bridgeport, where the Blue Dons are taking on the Bulldogs. This is a really interesting matchup to me because the last 3 or 4 years, it's been undefeated against undefeated. Obviously, both teams graduated some people. Bridgeport graduated a lot more than Madonna did. Madonna graduated 5 really good athletes, but Bridgeport just graduated some really good kids who went to the playoff, went 10-0 for the first time in school history. This is one of the taking care of business games. Madonna's got to go down there, take care of business. Toronto beat Bridgeport. Madonna plays Toronto late in the year. Madonna's still working its way into getting in the top 8 within the Class A West Virginia. It's Ross Comas and Nick Osmond and Christian Rowe and all those kids really pretty much need to show some backbone and take care of the smelly quarterback and just make sure they do what they need to do.
That's what I find absolutely interesting is the quarterback battle in this. You have one who's experienced, which is actually on the Bridgeport side, but Comas for the Madonna side is playing exceptional. He has a completion percentage near 70 and an 8-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. That's phenomenal, especially for this area. So to be able to throw the ball when they have to, yet still run the way Madonna runs, that's a deadly combination.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much balance on Madonna's offense. You talked about Comas. I mean, plus he's a threat to run the ball. He's had a couple 100-yard games. You got Rowe and Osmond have both had big games this year running the ball. Rokiski on the outside. I mean, their offense is just so balanced, and their defense is pretty tough.
Yep.
It's going to be a rough. It's not. I don't think it's going to be the Madonna Bridgeport game in the last 2 years.
No, I agree with that.
And we're under the assumption Rowe is fully healthy for this week.
The rumor is he's suiting up, ready to go. So that's good. That's good for Madonna. Now we have now we're going back for Bridgeport. Now we're going to Wellsburg with a really, really, really interesting and trying to figure out how they got together matchup with Dayton Dunbar going to Brook. This is Brook's playoff, so to speak. They really need this game. Something fierce. Dayton Dunbar's a really good football team, and but I just don't know if Brook has the quickness to take care of Dayton Dunbar. What do you think?
I'm still waiting on the answer how they got together. Hopefully I have that waiting in my email when we get back this afternoon. But Brook, one thing that was nice to see last week from them finally for maybe the first time in 3 years was, hey, there was a passing game.
Exactly.
300 yards worth of passing. So it shows that it's not just Timmy Faulkner all the time.
Right.
Okay? So you have an experienced quarterback in Buck Melter. So if they do get down to a talented team like Dunbar, and let's face it, gentlemen, that's good football over there in Dayton and Cincinnati.
Absolutely, yep.
So let's see how Brook can really stack up against a good football power and a good football area.
Yeah, they're gonna have to. They're gonna have to find that balance again. That he doesn't necessarily have to throw for 300 yards, but he has to complete passes and no interceptions. He can't throw 3 picks again this week, or it's going to be a long day against a very good Dayton Dunbar team.
Yeah, I agree. Last game on the docket, we have your Go Big Blue.
Judas Priest.
Go Big Blue. We have Catholic Central going to Conotton Valley for a 1:30 Saturday game. Your boys need a win.
Yeah,
Your boys need a win.
they definitely need to win. This is the game they should get it. Because to be honest with you, except for we're on the horizon, they have a tough road ahead of them with 3 teams. They need to go to Conotton Valley and take care of business and do it emphatically. They need to be impressive today or Saturday. And they went complete opposite this week. They went from nothing but throwing to nothing but running. Balance. That's what they need.
Yeah, I think that identity is absolutely huge here, as Fred points out. I mean, Conotton Valley, let's face it, it's just not a good football team at the moment. And Central has explosive capabilities.
Yes, it
We've
is.
seen it this year, but only in very short bursts.
Yeah.
It hasn't been a full game. They have not put an entire game together. And then you have last week, Brent Caldwell throwing 8 times. He was throwing that in the first
Quarter.
Yeah, if not more. You know?
Exactly.
So let's see if they can achieve that balance, get a little bit of a running game, but yet still be as deadly as they were in the passing game before that.
All right, we want to congratulate Matt Fabro, who won last week's trivia question.
Abs.
Could you? And this week's trivia question, which you can email to sports@heraldstaronline.com. The big man, Aaron Thompson, for Toronto. What's his uniform number? We'll see you next week.
I hope we told him that.
I did.